Angela from Prettify Your Life, and I am happy to show you a project I'm finally finished with. You have no idea how happy I am. It's taken me forever to figure out how I wanted to make the labels, and then it wasn't an easy process because apparently I can't do anything easy or plain or boring, so these labels took quite a while. First of all, these are the shelving units I got from IKEA. They're the Expedites, but I think they're the Kalexes now. I haven't bought one of those. And all these little black boxes are called, if Swedish is anything like German, I'm going to say Drona Bins, D-R-O with an umlaut, N-A bins, Drona Bins. And I bought a bunch of these over several months, years actually, just because I've built up my storage. And they were pretty boring, and IKEA doesn't sell labels for these, so heads up IKEA, labels would be great for these bins. So the first thing I did was I went and bought a bunch of the pink ball fringe at Hobby Lobby, always using the coupon, and glued those on to the, there's a little pocket here, so there was a little guideline as to where to glue that. So I glued all of the ball fringe on all of the bins, and then I made these labels, and I will go over how I made them. Okay, so the first thing I did to make all of the labels was buy a bunch of these wooden die cuts at Michael's. Now, I can't promise you're gonna find these, because even in my town I've found the Michael's across the board don't necessarily carry the same wood items, so I can't promise you're gonna find these, but you might try Etsy. But anyway, that's what I started with, and I painted it pink. This is called what is this called? Parisian Pink by Folk Art. And I just used a sponge brush, and it took 2 coats. So that's what I did the first go around. And then I inked the edges with just some black Adirondack stamping ink. Just went and inked the edges, and then I accented it with a white paint pen. And I'm getting tired of paint pens. It's like you use them once and then you have to use them for a project 3 months later and they've already dried out. But this Pen Touch paint pen I got at Hobby Lobby worked really well. Then it was time to make the accents. Now this is a Mod Podge mold. You can get these at Michael's and Hobby Lobby. Michael's has a better selection than Hobby Lobby. And you get the Mod Podge melts. Now I did a review a few months ago with this, and I wasn't real happy. But I used one of those super cheap $3 glue guns. It calls for the mini and dual temperature. Various people have written into me and they do it different ways, so whatever works for you is great. But the $3 glue gun did not work. It was too cheap. It gooped out the sides. I was not happy, so I didn't give it a good review. But I went and doubled down and got a $6 mini dual temperature glue gun, and it works fine, and the melts are really cool. So all you do is pick the mold you want, and for this I'm using the little crown, and you just fill in the mold. It doesn't have to be neat. This stuff trims up nicely with sharp scissors. So you just fill up the mold with the melted Mod Podge melt. And, you know, give it about 10 minutes. So if you're going to make a lot of these, it's going to take you a while. But it's worth it. It's kind of a cool thing. So give that about 10 minutes to harden. I've also used these Martha Stewart clay molds, but you know, they're silicone, so it's the same type of material as the Mod Podge melts, and it comes out really cool. Like for instance, I did a little tree limb, and that's pretty cool. So there's all kinds of options. There's all kinds of silicone molds on Etsy also, so you're not limited to just the molds that Mod Podge put out, which is a good thing, because once they took, you know, they came out with a product last year, they only had a few different varieties of molds for like a year, or at least readily available to the public. So it's nice that they're finally coming out with some other molds, but you're not limited to their Mod Podge brand. Okay, now that this has dried, all you have to do is pop it out, just like that. And you can trim the edges. Oops. Trim the edges so that you get the look you want. Now, after I made 40 of those, I painted it gold with just a metallic gold paint that I got at Hobby Lobby. So, there you have it. Then after I had painted all of these wooden labels and inked them and accented them with the paint pens, I then just used, I found these chalkboard labels at Michael's by Recollections that had the exact same shape. You could cut it out of chalkboard vinyl, but you know, it was already done. It was one less step. So I peeled all those off, all those off, and stuck them on the painted, inked, embellished labels. And then I hot glued my little crowns to the top. For the labels, now I love all the chalkboard trending stuff. However, I really kind of grown to hate the chalkboard markers. The reason being is that I haven't found a brand yet that doesn't leave a residue and it's not easily erased. If they make a marker, a chalkboard marker that with one wet wipe swipe comes off and doesn't leave a shadow, please, please, please let me know. Otherwise, I tend to shy away from the marker these days. It takes too much effort to get all of that residue off. So what I did was I used my P-Touch label maker and the black 12mm tape and set my tag width to 2 inches and just typed out all of my labels and put them on there. That way, if the bin changes, I can rip off the label and put a new one on there, and it's just easy. So then I just hot glued the die cut onto the bin. I measured the center from top to side and put a dot, and that's where I put the tip of the crown. So, oh, I forgot. I also punched a little hole after all the painting was done. I punched it with the Crocodile 2 Big Bite, and I got a bunch of these charms. I think they're called Art Eye Cake from Michael's, and I got some at a local store in Grapevine, Texas. I bought some jump rings and threaded them through the jump rings and threaded them through the holes on the bottom and punched them together with some pliers. Just added some whimsy, and I tried to get different ones as possible. Princess, live, some bling, just some fun. What is this? Ugh, the light in here is awful. Rock on sister. Has a little crown. Just lots of fun. This is one of my favorite. Chocolate, coffee, and men. And then the back says, sometimes they're just better rich. I thought that was funny. And that's on the Valentine ribbon bin. So I did lay out the different charms because I tried to avoid similar shapes next to each other. So yes, this was an extremely tedious project, not a hard project, but I am super duper duper glad it's over. So I hope that gives you some inspiration. I am really happy with the way it looks. It's fun, it's whimsical, and just the way it should be in your craft room. So thanks a lot.